Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Vampires vs. the Bronx. I had kind of heard a little bit about this movie, and then I heard a critically acclaimed podcast talk about it, and it immediately sparked my interest based on the kind of premise alone. The area of the Bronx was getting sort of gentrified very slowly, obviously, by like white people, and these teenagers in the Bronx who grew up there, early teens, I'm assuming, or I'm pretty sure, are trying to save the bodega and save the area, and they very much don't want it to change, but they find out that the white people who are gentrifying the Bronx are actually vampires, and are doing so through their realty company. I think it's called Murnau Realty, which I love, of course. They realize that they can take over poor areas like this because no one's going to care about this area of the Bronx, so they can kill people and suck their blood, and nothing will stop them. I thought it was actually some really good social commentary. The idea of, gentrifiers actually being vampires, literally sucking the life out of an old area is, kind of on the nose, but I thought it was pretty funny. So, a good genre pick idea, basically. Taking some social commentary, especially about what's going on right now, and making it into a horror movie. And I thought this was perfect. I'm actually surprised no one's made a Gentrifiers as vampires movie before. I think that's actually really funny. It intrigued me, and I was like, I have fun watching that. That'll be cool. So that's basically what Vampires vs. the Bronx is. It has a very genre premise, but essentially this isn't really like a genre. When you say genre film, you think probably more rated R, more adult, you get drunk with, it's like a fun, disposable kind of piece of entertainment. And all of that is actually going on here, but this is more actually for teens and actually for kids, which I actually thought was really cool. It's like more like a genre piece for 11, 12-year-olds. It's like the Boxcar Children book 17 of horror movies, and I thought this was actually really good at doing that. Now, granted, a lot of what this is doing is basically what Attack the Block did. And Attack the Block is way better, has a much tighter script. There's a kind of, for the most part, the story of this works. I think there's like a girl character who like sort of becomes a bigger deal later in the film, and it like never really works. And they either should have eliminated that character or made her a lot more prominent at the beginning, because it just felt like suddenly this background character became more, and it didn't really work at all. Even though I liked her, it just didn't flow well. This film had a lot of characters who sort of understood their place in the structure of the film, and that character just suddenly popped out. It like just felt sort of like sloppy writing. But other than that, this is, kind of a very tight little genre kids movie, and I thought that was kind of fun. I guess I've heard from other reviews that basically like this is like Attack the Block. You can see things from Edgar Wright in there, and you can see that influence. I don't really, and this is directed by Oz Rodriguez, who's worked on some of the SNL digital shorts, and I think Super Deluxe, and a lot of kind of stuff like that, and Chris Reed's in this, and I love Chris Reed. I think he does a good job, but I looked at this as more as like a quickie, almost like low budget, probably would have been straight to video kind of movie. I don't think this film was aspiring to be the kind of incredibly dense, well-directed films that Joe Cornish and Edgar Wright did. I kind of didn't even come in thinking that, and as I was watching it, although I thought the whole time, like, this is good, I'd probably tell someone, like, have you seen Attack the Block? And if they said, oh, no, I haven't, I go, okay, well, like, do that first. But then see this, This might be a poor man's imitation of that, but I think, when you get into genre, and what genre does is it recycles ideas 1,000,001 times. And we don't have that many different versions of Attack the Block, and I don't mind if this is the American version that's with vampires in the Bronx. That's enough specificity and difference that, like, how would that bother anyone really? It feels like a totally different thing. To be honest, you could make one of those in every different region, and I'd be interested in seeing it. But I like how this kind of plays with that sort of premise, and I think the whole idea of like just using gentrifiers as many people view that as like cultural vampires, of like taking over an area and removing the specificity and making it into their own just because of wealth and money, and nothing can stop this train road from happening, feels like kind of an evil horror force, much like most of those horror movies do. So I think it's like an apt comparison, really. And having these three kids, one kid who really cares, who's like the little mayor who is trying to do a block party for the bodega that he grew up with, that he loved going to. That's so New York, because everybody has their local bodega. They have your favorite bodega that becomes your regular place that you always go to, that you're going to go buy beers, buy soap. You're going there first. You might go into another one because one other place is fancy soap, but you think twice about it. That was really smart. Even though, admittedly, I rarely go to the Bronx. To be honest with you, I rarely go to a lot of boroughs, but that's more just because I don't go many places. But the Bronx seems nice, though. I thought it's very New York in what it's trying to tell, which I think kind of added to the loose fun of it, gave it a little more soul than I think most people expect. I just looked at this as like a cheapy kind of genre film for young teens, and I think that really works. And I think Oz Rodriguez shows how good he is at making one of those. I get there are better movies at doing that. I get the vampires are sort of they're just kind of like regular type of vampires, but in terms of what these movies are, my expectations were kind of leveled anyway. Granted, they weren't doing too much. They're just sort of, I do think our bar for horror comedy is a lot higher, because when you look at like What We Do in the Shadows, with the show and the movie, they're specifically talking about different kinds of vampires from different types of vampire literature, and this is just like, we like Blade and there's vampires here, and that's fine for what this is. Not everything has to do those sort of things. I don't really mind it, frankly. I really like the casting. It uses a lot of good kind of like character actors. Shea Whigham's role, which is, I actually sort of like Shea Whigham in this. I know he's just kind of like a roaming character actor, but I thought he was maybe better utilized than people realize. Sarah Godin, who normally, I think her role as a character actor is to play a well-meaning white person, and she is, by the way, really good at it. She did it in True Detective season 3, and she did it as well in here, and she is like excellent as a villain in this. Just like, I thought she was really good, but she definitely gets like what that kind of role is and her tone exactly, and being that well-meaning white lady, she's just absolutely amazing at it. You start to realize exactly what she's doing. It like almost calls attention to it, and I realized when I looked at her IMDb, I've seen her play this role in like countless movies at this point and shows, and I was like, hey, good for you, because you are like really good at it. I didn't even notice, and I think that's the point. As well as like Method Man as a priest. I grew up with Method Man as like kind of like in the Wu-Tang Clan, and all the parents like didn't like the Wu-Tang Clan, because of the curse words and stuff, and now he's playing a priest. Is like pretty funny. Should they have picked maybe a rapper from the Bronx and not Staten Island instead? Yeah, probably, but I still think that it's fun casting. I can't believe I saw Method Man play a priest. Probably shows how old I am. As well as I think one of the big kind of roles is Tony, the guy who runs the bodega, who like watches the kids in the area. It's played by this guy, the Kid Marrow. I don't know that show he's on at all. I've never watched it. I understand people like it a lot, but he was really good. I really enjoyed watching him. I thought he played the kind of older mentor really well, kind of like very much like felt like a guy in a bodega, who would be a mentor. Like, it felt incredibly authentic, as well as all the kids, I thought, from Miguel Martinez, Bobby Carter, and Luis Acosta. Bobby Martinez, is the lead. He's kind of like the one who cares the most about the area and wants to make sure his little part of the Bronx, which they just call it the Bronx. They don't, that's one of the things I did notice. Anyone is like, oh, you live in Queens, what area of Queens do you live in, what area of Brooklyn, what area of, nobody just says, I live in the Bronx. You would say more than that, so I thought that was a little, could have used a little more specificity, but I think most people don't think about that, so it's fine. This is just kind of a fun young adult read of a horror movie, but we need some of those. We need, as someone who's a parent, and my daughter's way too young to watch this movie yet, I noticed there's not a lot of like good kid horror, it's kind of like real sanitized TV movie crap, and that's like whatever. This is like actually, it's very much a genre film. It's a lot of fun. There are a lot of good jokes in it. I laughed. I had a good time. There was, definitely elements of, classic gangster films, The Wire season 4, things of that nature, but it also, in effect, is a genre film, and that's entirely what he's trying to do. What Oz Rodriguez is trying to do as a director is he's trying to be a genre guy, but this was kind of like his kids movie to sell horror to the younger kids, and we sort of need this stuff to continue this genre, to make impressions on kids. So they'll probably these kids, much like how the kids in this movie really love Blade and learn everything they do about Blade, this is that kind of entry point for other kids right now. And I think I hope this turns kids on to stuff, and they'll see like better horror movies and vampire movies and things like that. I thought that was really good. I really like that about it, and I think that's sort of what this movie is. That's all it's essentially trying to do, and it was actually really good at it. I have more faith in this director, Oz Rodriguez. I think he can go on to do some really cool stuff, actually. Even though the Murnau thing, I like that because I love F.W. Murnau, and he was the director of Nosferatu. It sort of is like how this movie is. It's a reference. Sometimes some of these references aren't fully thought out. Like, there's not deeper connections in here. Like, this isn't kind of a horror parody you could show to a deeper director who'd laugh and appreciate those things. It's just like, look, it's Murnau because of that guy. You're like, does this have a connection to Nosferatu? And like, either they cut that part out or it's just not in the movie, but either way it don't count because it's not there. And that's kind of some of the things. Like, they have casting of Method Man, but like, other than saying the badass thing, like, couldn't you have gotten like, you know, was KRS-One busy? Like, I don't guess, like, kind of just maybe a starter kind of first, I don't know how many features, but I believe this is one of his first bigger features kind of thing. I think it actually is pretty fun and pretty entertaining, and just like an easy to go down fun little horror film, and having these kids, you know, defend their local area from these blood-sucking gentrifiers was actually a lot of fun. So if you've seen Vampires vs. the Bronx and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.